Okay, so this is what we had started with last lecture. Okay, that was working capital management. Okay, yeah. Pushpa, thanks. So working capital management, I explained you what is working capital management. It is a study of managing working capital. That is the way to manage your working capital. Working capital is what? It is the capital which is required for running the day-to-day business activity. Okay, I had given an example of human body, uh, the vital parts of human body, the brain, the heart, the kidney, the lungs, they all are inactive without the flow or the circulation of blood vessels. Okay, so blood vessels acts like working capital. Okay, so in financial term, if you say how important a blood vessel is, the circulation of flow of blood is, similarly working capital is for business. Then obviously we have already done this mathematical equation of working capital when we did work the first chapter, vertical financial statements, and even the second one, ratios. Okay, so just a breakup of the mathematical equation I have given. Current assets, okay, I had explained this. They are expected to be realized during the normal operating cycle of the, this is a definition of current asset. But it should be within 12 months, and it should be only for the purpose of trading. Okay, now what is this trading? Buying and selling of goods. Okay, when I say trading, for me as a businessman, it will be buying and trading of, I mean buying and selling of goods. Okay, so these are my current assets. Current assets are inventories, that is raw material, WIP, finished goods, trade receivables, that is debtors and bills receivable, cash and cash equivalent. This also I had explained last lecture. Cash in hand, cash at bank, and marketable securities. Marketable securities are what? They are securities which mature within a short period of time. 2 दिन का, 3 दिन का, 5 दिन का, 7 दिन का, 10 दिन, 15 दिन का, ऐसा very short duration of time. They are called as cash and cash equivalents. Even I had given you an example of ATM card. Yeah, you don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to keep money with you in the pocket. Okay, so ATM card is also cash equivalent. Is an example of cash equivalent. Okay, and fourth was prepaid expenses. Okay, and then similarly, same way, current liability. Okay, same definition है. सिर्फ there I say they are expected to be realized. Realized matlab I have to collect money, right? Yeah, and here it is, they are expected to be settled. Settled matlab payment. Okay, liability is my payment towards others. Okay, so that is settled. Okay, during the normal operating cycle of the entity. Normal operating cycle, I had discussed last lecture what is a normal operating cycle. I had given you that flow, the business cycle. Okay, raw material, kolana, then holding the raw material, then processing the raw material in the factory, then preparing the finished goods, then keeping the finished goods in the warehouse, then giving it to the ultimate retailer. Okay, yeah, or the seller, and then the seller sells it. He will either sell it at cash or credit. So if he sells at cash, so very good, you will get cash ASAP. But if he sells at credit, then you have to wait till the credit period expires and you are collecting the money. So मतलब पैसा आते आते बिजनेस में बहुत टाइम लग जाता है. तो during that time, you need to pump in money into your business, and that happens because of adequate working capital. Okay. Then, for the purpose of trading, that is, I told you, for buying and selling of goods, and current liability includes trade payables, that is, bills payable and creditors, and the outstanding expenses. Okay. Yeah. Coming on to the next part. Yeah, see, I had explained this last lecture. Cash and cash equivalents. Okay. Yeah, coming on to next. Yeah. concept of working capital can be understood. This is important for some solving. Can be understood from two perspectives. Okay. Okay. So it can be understood from two perspectives. Now, what is that perspective? The first perspective is value, and the second perspective is time. So when we are studying about the first perspective, in that also you have sub points. Gross working capital and net working capital. Okay. So now what is this gross working capital? Okay. Gross working capital is what? So write down. Investments of working capital in current assets. I'll explain you the meaning of this. And net working capital may write down investments of working capital in current assets net of the current liability. Okay. And then come to this part. Time. Divide this. Okay. So on this basis, you have permanent working capital and second, temporary working capital. Okay. So right now, permanent working capital is to be maintained throughout the lifetime of the company. Okay, so what does it mean? Throughout the lifetime of the company means what? It is the minimum, तो इतना तो तुमको साइड रखना ही पड़ेगा. It is the minimum working capital required okay, रिजर्व्स कैसे आप साइड में रखते हो, सिमिलर. देन टेम्पररी वर्किंग कैपिटल. So here you can write it is required over and above minimum working capital. Okay, it is situational, matlab depending on the condition. It is situational as it's based on time. Okay, or you can say it's based on demand and supply. Okay, what is the meaning of this? Now listen carefully. I'll give you first gross working capital. ठीक है, we'll take an example. चलो एक एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं. ठीक है, से मैं वर्किंग कैपिटल कैलकुलेट कर रही हूँ. पहले मैंने लिखा करंट एसेट्स. से माय डेटर्स आर 50,000. My bills receivable is 20,000. My prepaid expenses are 10,000. My cash in hand is 5,000. My cash at bank is say 1,000. Okay, and cash equivalents are say 2,000. Okay, so what is the total? This will give me total current assets. Barabar? So 5 plus 2, 70, 70, 80, 85, 86, 87, 88. So 88,000 is my answer. Okay, next. Then what will I do? I'll calculate my current liability. Okay, just see what I'm doing. Current liability. So my current liability is creditors say 80,000. Say my bills payable is 2,000. Say my outstanding office expense is say 5,000. ठीक है, कितना हुआ टोटल? टोटल ऑफ करंट लाइबिलिटी 77,000. ठीक है, गॉट दिस एग्जाम्पल? नाउ लिसन व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. तो ये जो मैंने टोटल किया है ना, ये कैन यू सी दिस आंसर 88,000. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज ग्रॉस वर्किंग कैपिटल. अंडरस्टूड? सी क्या लिखा है मैंने? इन्वेस्टमेंट्स ऑफ वर्किंग कैपिटल इन करंट एसेट्स इज नोन एज ग्रॉस वर्किंग कैपिटल. सो कैन आई से total current assets is equal to gross working capital? True or false? Acknowledge it in this chat box. Can I say total current assets is equal to gross working capital? Yeah, it's a true statement. Yeah, good. Okay, yeah. Got it? What the difference now between gross working capital and net? So what is net working capital? अब इसके बाद जब मैं वर्किंग कैपिटल निकालूंगी, व्हाट विल बी माय वर्किंग कैपिटल? करंट एसेट्स माइनस करंट लाइबिलिटी. सो 88,000 माइनस 77,000 कितना होता है? 11,000. तो इसको बोलते हैं नेट वर्किंग कैपिटल. समझ में आया? इज दिस क्लियर? व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन ग्रॉस वर्किंग कैपिटल एंड नेट वर्किंग कैपिटल? ओके, या. So this is how you calculate a working capital. Okay. So don't think ये जो मैंने इतना फास्ट कैलकुलेट किया एग्जाम में ऐसे सब दिया हुआ रहेगा, इतना हलवा नहीं आने वाला है. ठीक है, या. We will make you calculate. अभी जैसे I give an example, date is 50. So how debtors is 50? So you will calculate that. So that is what we are going to learn in this chapter. Okay. Say I told you bills receivable is 20. So how it is 20? Like this. Okay. Prepaid expenses 30,000. So 30 kaise aaya? That is all what we are going to solve. Okay, so net working capital is investments of working capital in current assets net of current liability. Okay, or you can write less of current liability. Okay, this will be easier for you to understand. Okay, less of current liability. Okay, now come to permanent working capital. So the minimum working capital which is required by a company throughout its lifetime is called as minimum working capital. Okay, say for example, okay, what example should I give? डे टू डे बिजनेस एक्टिविटी एवरी डे फॉर बिजनेस इफ यू आर अ बिजनेसमैन तुम्हारा रोज का खर्चा बिजनेस का 5,000 रुपये है आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट रोज का एवरी डे सो 5,000 into 30 days is how much 1,50,000 so monthly 1,50,000 तुम्हारा daily expenses है. Now in this daily expenses you are purchasing raw material, you are paying wages, you are doing what do you call miscellaneous expenditures related to business and other activities for which you are paying. Okay, तो पूरे महीने का तुम्हारा 1,50,000 का खर्चा है रोज का या पूरे महीने का. So आपका working capital कितना होना चाहिए? Anyone? How much should be your working capital then? Anyone can give a decent example about it? अगर मेरा रोज का खर्चा 1,50,000 है, so what should be the minimum working capital with me? Because that's called as permanent working capital. Yeah, how much? Yeah, my question to you all is, if 1,50,000 is my monthly expenses in connection to business, ओके ये मेरा खर्चा होता ही रहता है रोज का 5,000 पकड़ के चलो तो पूरे महीने का 1.5 लाख रुपया एक्सपेंसेस है बिजनेस का. सो व्हाट शुड बी द व्हाट यू कॉल वर्किंग कैपिटल? कितना मिनिमम मुझे अपने पास वर्किंग कैपिटल जमा करके रखना चाहिए? ओके 1,50,000 ओके मिनिमम करेक्ट. हाँ, कट टू कट किस्मत कट टू कट नहीं चलने का, थोड़ा ऊपर. ओके थोड़ा सा ऊपर तो 1,55,000 1,60,000 थोड़ा. हाँ, एकदम कट टू कट नहीं चलेगा. 1,50,000 का 1,50,000 रखोगे तो क्या होगा फिर आप नेक्स्ट मंथ के फर्स्ट डे में खाली हो जाओगे बराबर ना. एम्प्टी यू विल बी एम्प्टी हैंड. या थोड़ा ऊपर. ओके अ डिसेंट रेंज बट अप से 1,60,000 क्लियर. ओके so that's called as permanent working capital. So you will see that in your bank account your money is not going less than 1,60,000 because मेरा रोज का मेरा मंथली खर्चा 1.5 लाख है बराबर. तो 1,60,000 मैंने एक डिसेंट फिगर बना के रखा है कि मेरा बैंक बैलेंस या मेरा कैश अवेलेबिलिटी इससे मैं कम नहीं करूँगी. तो एवरी मंथ मेरा 1,60,000 1,60,000 1,60,000 अकाउंट बैलेंस मेंटेन रहेगा बिकॉज मेरा हर महीने का खर्चा 1.5 लाख है. ओके क्लियर. Then temporary working capital. Okay, what is that? Temporary working capital means sometimes it may happen that due to heavy demand, okay, your products के लिए you get a very good demand. So due to heavy demand, what happens? Expenses related to production will increase. Obviously ना सामने वाले ने तुम्हारा production activity है, तुम्हारा हर महीने goods you are able to sell 3,000 units of goods. Okay, सामने वाले से डिमांड आया भाई 3,000 है, इस बार हम अपने को 5,000 चाहिए. How much? 5,000 units of goods. So you have to work more ना. You have to work more so that 3,000 की जगह you have to sell now 5,000 2,000 more units. So everything will increase ना related in connection to whatever you're going to sell 2,000 units more. There is associated cost to it. So that's gonna increase. So if that's gonna increase, your working capital is gonna increase. Okay. This example which I gave, say 1,50,000 of working capital, say it is required with a production activity or sale activity of 3,000 units. तो अगर मेरे को 5,000 यूनिट्स बेचना है, जैसे दिवाली आ रही है तो डिमांड इंक्रीजेस. So if I have to sell 5,000 units, so for that particular month, in that particular month, my working capital will increase for that month. So temporary working capital is that concept कि जैसे जैसे डिमांड सप्लाई आ रहा है उस हिसाब से आपको आपका वर्किंग कैपिटल रेज करना पड़ेगा. ओके, बट मिनिमम वर्किंग कैपिटल इज व्हाट? परमानेंट वर्किंग कैपिटल. ओके. So if you students, if you look into a normal course of what you call, if you want to understand the graphical presentation, yeah, just pay attention. अगर आपको इसका ग्राफ समझना है तो ये देखो. ठीक है. So say x-axis, right, denotes time. And say y-axis denotes what do you call, amount of working capital. Okay, this y-axis denotes amount of working capital. ठीक है. सो परमानेंट वर्किंग कैपिटल मतलब क्या? थ्रू आउट कितना रहेगा? मैंने अभी एग्जांपल दिया 1,60,000, 1,60,000, 1,60,000 थ्रू आउट, राइट? सो do you agree that my permanent working capital will be a straight line? Permanent working capital will be a straight line. Everybody agrees to this? Acknowledge in the chat box. I'm comparing this with my time. I mean, I'm telling you the concept of time value. Okay, it will be a permanent working capital. Okay, so what about the temporary working capital? Okay, yeah. टेम्पोररी वर्किंग कैपिटल कैसे जाएगा? ऊपर नीचे जाएगा, है ना? वो एकदम क्या बोलते हैं, स्टेबल नहीं रहेगा. So say my temporary working capital is curved like this. Okay, so this is my temporary working capital. Okay, तो ये है नॉर्मल बिजनेस. नॉर्मल बिजनेस ऐसे चलता है. ठीक है. हाँ, अब देखो एक ग्रोइंग बिजनेस का ग्राफ कैसे होता है. Okay, let's understand how is a growing business graph. Okay, so growing business graph में what will happen? My permanent working capital okay will be a straight line. सीधा ही जा रहा है, crooked नहीं है. It is not crooked, twisted भी नहीं है, right? Straight है लेकिन ऊपर को जा रहा है, upward track. Okay, और ये ऐसे ही फॉलो करेगा. ओके, या समझ में आया एवरीवन? इज दिस क्लियर टिल हियर टू एवरीवन? Yeah, acknowledge it in the chat box. See, I know we have very less time. I mean, there is a lot of portion. Yeah, but I always believe that concepts should be clear first. So I'm investing time here so that sums becomes easy for you. Okay, that's it. So there is always, you should keep adequate working capital with you. That's the importance of working capital. We have seen what is the importance of working capital. So there should be never an inadequate working capital. There should be always sufficient working capital for you if you want the business to run smoothly and finely. Okay, that's very important. Okay, so next come to importance of work adequate, मतलब enough, ज़्यादा भी नहीं होना चाहिए, enough sufficient. जैसे मैंने 1,50,000 का एग्जांपल दिया, आपका रोज का आपका महीने का खर्चा है रिलेटेड टू योर ट्रेडिंग एक्टिविटीज, तो एक डिसेंट एडिक्वेट अमाउंट 1,60,000 मैंने बोला टू कीप एज योर परमानेंट वर्किंग कैपिटल. इट मे चेंज अगर आपका प्रोडक्शन एक्टिविटी बढ़ रहा है, सेलिंग एक्टिविटी बढ़ रहा है, तो फ्यूचर में आपका परमानेंट वर्किंग कैपिटल का जो रेंज है, जो अमाउंट है, वो भी बढ़ेगा. ठीक है, एडिक्वेट वर्किंग कैपिटल. Okay, so to understand the importance of adequate working capital, you have to first understand कि what if there is over working capital and there is under working capital. Okay, yeah. तो फिर तुमको वो that thin line of difference you will understand कि why there should be enough working capital. Okay, so I am not telling you कि there should be more working capital or there should be less working capital. I want to explain you कि there should be enough working capital. Okay, so for that you should understand what happens if there is over working capital and what happens if there is under working capital. Okay, over investments in working capital. So what will happen if there is too much investment in working capital? If too much investments in working capital, then obviously too much funds are blocked. Blocked मतलब idle funds. मतलब ऐसे पड़ा है, उसका कुछ आप कर नहीं सकते हो. Idle funds. Idle funds मतलब unnecessary funds. Okay. So over investments in working capital leads to idle funds. Okay, don't forget this. Next, under investments in working capital. So इससे क्या होगा? Lack of liquidity. Liquid cash आपके पास नहीं होगा. Simple. Lack of liquidity. Liquid cash चाहिए ना रोज बिजनेस चलाने के लिए. Okay. If it continues, then there may occur bankruptcy या insolvency. lack of liquidity, which may lead to insolvency. Am I clear? Is it clear till here? Everyone, acknowledge it in the chat box. Any doubts? Okay. Any doubts? Okay. Next, I wanted to say